Welcome to the show. This episode is going to be just a topic of the moment, something that I've been thinking about the past few days while doing a little bit of writing on other things. And it covers the transition between Alive into the Destroyer set and just how things changed so drastically during that period in 1976. The Alive tour had gone on for a very long period of time and essentially started transitioning material from the new album in during March. So I'm going to look at a few of the set lists, just talk a little bit about the history around the songs coming into the set, and put in a bit of audio to listen to for the discussion, because I think that's important to have the documentary evidence. I can't share any video, unfortunately, as part of these, because as we know, that just results in more trouble than it's worth. A lot of the audio is specially prepared for these episodes, and in some cases comes off master cassettes for those bootlegs, so at least we'll have the best possible quality to listen to as part of this. I hope you enjoy. So currently, the last confirmed Alive set list took place in Lund, Sweden on May the 30th. It's important to remember that a much shorter set was performed during the European leg of the tour. They really cut back, I think, a couple of songs at that point. Many of the songs from Alive, stalwarts such as Parasite and Cold Gin, had been dropped, and at that time, Come On and Love Me had been swapped for Flaming Youth. But going back to the beginning of the transition, Shout It Out Loud had been added to the set in March. We don't know the exact date. There's a couple of windows where they could have rehearsed it up, but nothing specifically has been figured out yet. The earliest audio that I'm aware of for that song is from Memphis on March the 14th. It's not surprising that Shout It Out Loud is first. It's the first single from Destroyer. So it goes into the set in conjunction with the release of the album. That just makes sense, but they're still touring Alive. It's very much the Alive set and show, which was just the high point, really, of the original homebrew stage and theatrical performance. You know, it hadn't evolved tremendously in 2 years, but it had certainly changed in terms of its safety. From that, you get some great hybrid set lists. Let's look at one, Philadelphia on March the 24th. Deuce, Strutter, Come On and Love Me, Hotter Than Hell, Firehouse, She, Parasite, Nothing to Lose, Shout It Out Loud, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond, Cold Gin, Rock and Roll All Night, and still closing with Let Me Go Rock and Roll. So it's really a mix is starting to happen in the set, keeping in all the stuff that had been part of Alive and the bulk of the set for the earlier years as well, and still closing out with Let Me Go Rock and Roll, the party song. So the set itself is pretty fun, I guess, as a Kiss fan. If I'd been a fan back then, I would have been in heaven hearing a set like that. So it's great to look back in hindsight at what was and what I missed, because, you know, coming up, it's going to be a bit of a shock. So let's listen to Shout It Out Loud from March 1976.
All right. Is everybody having a real good time tonight? Is everybody getting into rock and roll party? All right. This is something new. It's
Awesome. I still love that. That was from Philadelphia. All right, so move on into April, and Flaming Youth and God of Thunder are added to the set. The April touring was specifically for a Canadian leg of the Alive tour, plus there were a handful of rescheduled makeup dates from earlier. I think Utica was one that had been canceled, and I'm going off the top of my head for a lot of this, from March. So there are more changes to the set, more Destroyer stuff comes in, because clearly now Alive's coming up to a year since they started recording for that album, May 75. So it's getting quite aged.
Wow! How you doing? This is from our new album, Destroyer. It's called Flaming You.
So Detroit Rock City comes into the set in May for the European leg. Now, we don't have a lot of sets from this whole period, so these dates can be slightly off here and there. for when stuff came in and all that. But generally speaking, just to give you a sequential view of when these songs are getting added to the set, that's pretty good ballpark.
I want to tell you something. I want to tell you, when you go someplace you haven't been for the first time, you don't ever know what to expect. But I'll tell you, if we knew you people were going to be so goddamn rock and roll, we would have come here sooner. You people are dynamite. And I'll tell you, when we close our eyes, I swear, sounds just like we're back in Detroit Rock City.
So that tour runs March through early June, and then they return to the US, and that's where the whole transformation takes place. They'd engaged Glickman Marks, who come on board professionalizing the organization. They're the business managers. So they're going to help Kiss really start leveraging the financial benefits of that popularity, and it results in a revamp of the show. They go back to Jules Fisher and Associates, who had been involved in the very first professional show, which is New Year's Eve '73, and the build out of the original logo, the spiderweb backdrop. That's Jules Fisher and Mark Ravitz were there. And they come in and obviously design a completely different stage show. It still keeps a lot of the elements of original Kiss, and that is the theme that runs through the whole history of the band, for most part. Now, they gave Mark some memos to work from as he was designing the stage show, and a proposed set list for the Destroyer tour communicated to him ran with the following sequence: Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, God of Thunder, Sweet Pain, Shout It Out Loud, Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Watching You, Do You Love Me, Flaming Youth, Deuce, Firehouse, Black Diamond, and now Rock and Roll All Night becomes the show closer. So that's a pretty cool set list on itself, but it's a wholesale reorganization of the band's catalog live. The amount of Destroyer songs in there is very impressive, and just the amount of stuff that has now been jettisoned, it's really been streamlined. Sweet Pain is rumored to have been performed at the very first show of the tour at the Scope in Norfolk, Virginia. And that's probably the most interesting of the songs looking back in hindsight, though someone seeing the show in 1976 would have been, wow, that's a lot of Destroyer. So there's only 2 new cuts really joining the set list because Sweet Pain obviously didn't survive. And it's also important as we look back on these set lists just to remember we live in the age of communication and technology we have for the whole internet era and even tape trading earlier. We know what set lists are now in hindsight for these. And when we have tours that are ongoing, we know what they are instantaneously. So the people out there enjoying these shows were ignorance is bliss. They would have had no idea what they were going to get. Now, if they had seen Kiss previously, then they would probably have a little bit of a shock. And it'd be good to talk to some of those fans, what they felt and thought of the changes to the set between Alive and Destroyer, and the stage show for that matter. So reality meets theory. From the proposed set list, the first 3 songs in that list remained the same. Hotter Than Hell, which was initially planned to be dropped, returned in the number 4 song slot. And that's the same as it enjoyed for the Alive tour. I guess perhaps it came back in to offset some of the new material being added. You bring back just one of the kind of core songs from the Alive tour just to keep a little bit more connection with where they were coming from and where they were going. But it's jarring from an outside perspective to see them jettisoning so much of the catalog. But, overall, I think they balanced it pretty well. Cold Gin returns to the set, again as the launching pad for Ace's guitar solo, and the memo suggests that Sweet Pain had originally been intended to replace Cold Gin in that role. And that makes a possible audio recording either of rehearsals, including that, or that very first show, very appealing to hear how Ace transitioned at the end of Sweet Pain into the solo and whether it worked or not. Certainly, the reversion to Cold Gin suggests that it didn't work very well. And it's more than a little bit ironic that Ace had been replaced on that recording in the studio with Dick Wagner. So which solo in the song itself was he performing? His own, which we can now hear on Destroyer Resurrected, or was he aping the one that Dick performed? Or is that why it didn't proceed? Because he didn't want to. I don't think Ace would remember, but it's such a brief moment in Kisstory. It does raise quite a few rather interesting appealings. Maybe a cover band can do a performance of Sweet Pain live and use that as the launching pad for Ace's or their Ace's solo. It'd be cool to see, just to have some of these tribute bands just do some of these sets as intended, just so that we could get an idea of how they work, especially since we don't have the recordings. All right, so the next 3 songs in that proposed set were performed during the tour itself. Shouted Out Loud, Strutter, and Nothing to Lose. So Strutter and Nothing to Lose return from the Alive set. That keeps it very much, again, anchored with the band's history and keeps it moving forward for Destroyer. A definite oddity that did return for the Destroyer tour, or the Spirit of 76, as it was kind of more appropriately titled, is Watching You. And that song was hardly a set favorite by 1976, even 1975. It may have been planned to bring it back in because Gene liked it, or again, another song anchoring them to the past, or perhaps it was penance for neglecting the song so badly during the Dressed to Kill and Alive tours, where it was barely performed, if at all. So God of Thunder, initially slotted into the number 4 song slot, it was shifted to much later in the set. That makes far more sense in terms of the theatrical side of the show. You don't need a demon spitting blood and doing a bass solo 4 songs into the set. That's as bad as Van Halen and its position of drum solos on some of their tours, which seem more just to get it out of the way than have any reason or purpose. Plus, some of the shows were outdoors, so it wouldn't have made sense for him to be doing any demonic stuff during daylight. The end of the set itself follows the same form as planned in June. And I guess that the start, the middle, and the end of the show were generally as planned tends, in my mind at least, to lead credence to the plausibility of that as a possible set at the beginning of the tour. Now, they had a lot of problems getting out on the road. Rehearsals ran late. There were problems with the technical side of the show, production side of it. And I wonder if there were problems with the set itself. So the final musical stuff, I don't know. We only have a limited amount of the rehearsal videos from that, which are a great thing to watch. All right, so the first real Destroyer show that I think we have the full set for is from Roosevelt Stadium on, July the 10th or so. And that set was Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, Hotter Than Hell, Cold Gin, Shout It Out Loud, Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Do You Love Me, Watching You, God of Thunder, Flaming Youth, Deuce, Firehouse, Black Diamond, and Rock and Roll All Night. What's interesting about that is just the pure numbers. It gives Destroyer a staggering 6 songs performed during the tour. And that's probably as it should be. They are really pushing that album because, remember, until Beth comes out in August, it's really not performing to their great expectations. So you might as well put a lot of the songs in and let people hear them live. And that takes off some of the polish of the album, Ezrin's production, which of course they were absolutely petrified by after finishing the album. So the debut, rightfully also, in my mind, also has 6 songs represented. And again, that makes sense. That is the bulk of the catalog in my mind. When I think of Kiss classics, a lot of them come from that first album. Hotter Than Hell has an impressive 3 songs. That's way more than I would have thought. So that album is batting above its average. But again, those are songs that sound much better live than they did on the album. Though there's nothing wrong with the album. It's just fine to me. And then Dressed to Kill becomes the redheaded stepchild here. And there's just 1 song from that album remaining in the set. Just 1 album later. And it's the Rock and Roll National Anthem, Rock and Roll All Night. So that's kind of weird how quickly they moved on from Dressed to Kill when it's an album that certainly built on the success of the first 2. But again, those songs sound great. They're memorialized on Alive. Maybe the thinking is, well, if you want to hear that stuff, you've got the Alive album now. Go out and buy it. And certainly 2 million people had bought it at that time. From this point, everything changes with Kiss. Kiss brought in a business team to evaluate various aspects of their touring enterprise and business. They really started getting professional now. There were many recommendations that were made and some were implemented, and it really changes how the band tours for the remainder of the Originals era. But I'm going to detail that in a separate piece down the road. All right. Thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed some of the music today, and thank you as always for your support. Oh, hey, you're still here, watching or listening. Why don't you hit that subscribe button or click the like one? And if you want even more, click on the join button on YouTube. Thanks for your support.